What is going on, gamers? Aevatrex here, and today I'm going to be bringing you Insane Dungeons 5, 1 all the way up to 10. Now, my main objective this go around was just to get through the dungeons, no matter if I got 1 flame, 2 flame, 3 flame. My main objective was to get to 510 and then 3 flame that one, that way I can start sweeping it. Now I'll go back and try to 3 flame them all on separate videos, but in this one I just wanted to show you guys the path that I basically had to get to 510 and 3 flaming it. You guys could use the same strategy if you guys are going to be going for 510, because at the end of the day you don't necessarily have to 3 flame them unless you're just really wanting to get all of the flames, which I will be doing eventually. But the main objective is just to get through the dungeons, and a lot of these dungeons you just draw out a Skull Knight, and it's usually the easiest way to go about it. I believe I did that in about 3 or 4 of these dungeons, just drawing out an SK and then using the SKs at proc to your advantage. That way you can continue to proc on that same SK over and over and over again. So as you can tell here, I got the 2 flame, but I used that SK to my advantage to go ahead and make sure that my guys can get all of the procs that I needed to at least advance. Now at this point I'm just wandering around. I'm like, will I be able to 3 flame it maybe? But then I saw that the Arctica and the Goon, and I was like, yeah, no, those things are like inscription 400. So there's no way that I was gonna get over that. But we were able to advance, so definitely glad that we could advance on that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now this one was actually, I believe it's one of the easier ones. It's pretty straightforward. I think I just dropped on the side right here and then I just went to it. I think that was actually a erroneous drop of a spell, but I capitalized on it and it worked out fairly well. I think you can make the placement a little better on the spell, but since I dropped it and since I was on a computer, I didn't have full control of it most of the time. But we got the 3 flames, so we can't really complain too much on that. Now on this one, I decided to come through the magic tower side just because we can snowstorm all of it, and then the heroes on the right hand side I don't have to worry too much about, because I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that my Golem shields me and then the Guardian Angel shields me, and then after that we just pretty much rely on Pumpkin Duke stacks. Keep in mind that if you have a Valentina, Pumpkin Duke, Cupid, Valentina, Minnow are usually must-haves in most of these dungeons, just because Cupid and Valentina together are going to be giving Pumpkin Duke tons of energy, and Pumpkin Duke is just going to be going mad. So this one, another pretty straightforward one, but it's pretty much just a box with a lot of towers in the middle, stun towers, but you just pick a corner and you go. I chose this one because it was one of the ones that I felt didn't have any sort of Skull Knight or anything that can really mess me up until later on. So here comes the Skull Knight, but at this point I have too much steam and I'm able to get the minnow proc that I needed there. So there it is. And then of course, you know, we got the random Harpy Queen proc out of nowhere, and then Skull Knight solos me. Skull Knight, the most broken hero in the game. Now I want you guys to pay attention to this dungeon specifically, because this dungeon I felt was one of the harder ones. The reason I am going on the top right hand side on this one is because on the other sides there's usually a Skull Knight or an Atlantic Core that can usually mess you up. Skull Knight for obvious reasons, and then an Atlantic Core because even if your heroes are under Guardian Angel and the Atlantic Core procs, it is over. The Atlantic Core damage will come through. So I felt like that was one of the safer sides. Now of course it's doable from other sides, but I feel like it's gonna be a little bit more dangerous for you. So I would recommend coming from the right hand side there that I came from. Like I said, on this one I got the flame, so I'm not too worried about that. I advanced. At this point it's just a matter of seeing if I can get the 2 flames or if I'm gonna be stuck with just the 1 flame. Later on I'll come back and get all of these, but I think that these dungeons, they're easy for the most part. What makes them harder is because they have so many Skull Knights in so many different places now. It's not even so much the Articas or the Beast Tamers or anything like that. It's specifically the Skull Knights, because the Skull Knights, if they get to proc, your team will literally stay stuck on them. And that's usually a good thing because you get to proc and proc and proc. But the problem is a Skull Knight hits so hard that he's gonna just one-shot your hero. So that's really what's making these dungeons difficult. Now this one was actually another pretty straightforward one. It's pretty much like a cross. So I decided to come from the left-hand side because I felt that there was no real threat on this side. And then just let your Pumpkin Duke get the stacks up with Valentina and Cupid. And then once you get to the middle though, it seems like everything just converges on you, so you gotta watch out for that, but pretty straightforward on that one. Now this one, again, like I was mentioning, you basically just draw out the Skull Knight, take a peek at one of the heroes that I'm using, which is Maltanica. A little unorthodox for dungeons, but because those Skull Knights hit like a ton of bricks, I felt like the Maltanica debuff was actually going to help my hero stay up. And sure enough, there it is the proc that I needed. If I was going for the 3 flame, I probably wouldn't use Maltanica just because I'm going to need more head of steam. But because I just wanted to go through it, I just used Maltanica, let my middle proc a few times, and then get the flames that I needed. And then, yeah, as you can tell, it didn't really end well for me. So there we go. Here's the we're almost there. This is 5-9. And on this one, again, pretty straightforward. Draw out the Skull Knight. Hopefully your Skull Knight doesn't die in the process, but it didn't really affect me on this one too much because I was able to stay on that Skull Knight, proc, and then I believe I just need one more minnow proc and I should be golden. There it is. And then that was all I needed. Now, like I keep saying, keep in mind that this approach is just to continue on. If I was going for 3 flames, probably my strategy would be a little bit differently. But here it is, 5-10. Here's what you want to do. You want to drop the spells exactly where I'm dropping them. There it goes. You want to use an Ornithopter to draw out the Skull Knight and then send out your heroes. I am using Dread Drake and Spirit Mage along with Minotaur to destroy the base from a distance while they go ahead and stack on the Skull Knight. Now, once the Skull Knight dies, you kind of have to rely a little bit on luck that your heroes come back to that Skull Knight and keep proccing. I had to do this one over like 5 or 10 different times just because my heroes just kept going into another place and then just dying. So that's basically what you want to do for 5-10. It's pretty straightforward. You just basically want to stack there. But there we go, 5-10, 3 flame, and now we can go ahead and sweep this baby. And as you can tell, sweeping gives you 96 shards as well as 138,000 experience. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and until later, bye. If you guys want to see the 3 flames, go ahead and hit that like button.